Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد ولله الأسماء الحسنى فادعوه بها وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن لله تعالى 99 اسما من حفظها دخل الجنة. Let us move to number 25 now. The name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is number 25 on the list, is the opposite of mu'izz. It is muzil, which means the dishonourer, the abaser, the humiliator. From dhillah, opposite of izzah. Dhillah means humiliation. When a person is facing arrogance, facing an arrogant foe, an arrogant boss, an arrogant neighbor, an arrogant driver of the next car, okay? When feeling overwhelmed, then call on Ya Muzil. Another one is when a person themselves feel overwhelmed with pride or arrogance. I have too much arrogance. I'm just such a show-off. Ya Muzil, assist me. To be grounded and to prevent from being consumed by vanity. Some jobs just bring a lot of respect. Some jobs bring a lot of power. And if we're not careful, that power gets to our head. And that's the issue. So we want such a power that is used for the right thing. That allows us to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment and not have to feel humiliated. May Allah give us that. Protection against oppressors. Ya Muzil. This is what I had started with actually. So this is the one. If someone is being oppressed or unjustly treated by a person in power, they can call upon al-Muzil, asking Allah to humble the oppressor. Humility is good for everybody. So we're asking for humility so that they don't oppress. If they're oppressing us, they're oppressing somebody else. Number 3, job performance reviews. Before receiving feedback. You know, people go through feedback in their jobs to see how they're doing. So, or performance review at work, one might call on al-Muzil to stay humble and receptive to constructive criticism. It's not easy to take criticism. For a lot of people, unless you learn how to take criticism, you don't know how to take it. Some people, when if they're too arrogant, they'll always become defensive. And for other people who who are introverted, they might take it very badly and become overwhelmed by it. They don't know how to deal with criticism. To learn how to deal with criticism is actually something very, very important. Otherwise, you struggle in life because we're going to get criticized. And it's good to be criticized once in a while, to be honest, because we can't always be perfect. And we don't realize that we're doing wrong sometimes. Something as basic as our 5 daily salat, we could be getting that wrong. Even though we were perfect at one time, but over time, bad habits creep in. Just like bad driving practices. And it's somebody who has to correct us. We just need to be able to be open to taking it. So, Ya Muzil, keep me humble. In competitive settings, an athlete or a professional might invoke al-Muzil before a competition, asking for humility regardless of the outcome, and for their competitors to be humbled if they approach the event with arrogance. Let it be fair and square. So I don't get arrogant, they don't get arrogant. The boxers definitely need to do that. Because it just seems to be, the whole thing, the way they set it up, makes you arrogant. Or, you have to act arrogantly. There's very few decent people who are able to escape that and still do it in a dignified way while still pulling it off. Because there's just some of these sports and other things where you have to act arrogant. Look at The Apprentice. You have to act so arrogant in that. Like, I'm this, I can do this, even though you can't, right? All, every one of them trying to show that they're onto something. Right? I think the guys in Bake Off are calmer than the guys in The Apprentice. It's like, subhanallah. I just remember everybody was just so arrogant. It's like so arrogant. I was like, is that how it's in the workplace? You just have to be so arrogant? Alhamdulillah, the workplace we're in, man, if you get arrogant, then somebody's going to put you down, man. You have to be careful, Alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala keep us humble. So that was competitive settings, Ya Muzil. And personal reflection. In moments of introspection, When we're really thinking about ourselves, where we are, when identifying and acknowledging personal shortcomings, one can invoke al-Muzil for humility and guidance. It's just like, I want humility and guidance. Witnessing injustice. When witnessing, Ya Allah, injustice, especially if those people who are creating injustice are very arrogant and oppressive, self-deluded, narcissistic, that's exactly how they are. One might silently call upon al-Muzil. Do it openly, hoping to divine intervention for bringing humility and justice. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Muzil, Ya Muzil, Ya Muzil. During parenting, parents, when dealing with a rebellious or overly prideful child, might invoke al-Muzil, asking for guidance in teaching their child humility. Imagine having a proud child, an arrogant child. Arrogance against the parents would be even worse. How can you do that? Allah protect us. It's possible. Sometimes you might become more educated than your father and mother. And then you start getting arrogant. Ya Allah, Allah protect us. You can't have arrogance. I mean, they might even be wrong. They may be completely wrong. But arrogance is never allowed. One of the most difficult people to deal with are your parents. Because you just have to get it right. You have to get it right with everybody, but with your parents you really have to get it right. And then your children. Ya Mu'izz, Ya Muzil. Interpersonal conflicts in heated arguments or disputes where the other party is being unjustly dominant. Invoking Muzil can be a way to seek Allah's help in balancing the scales. Sometimes, you're having a discussion with somebody, a really serious discussion. We're trying to get a point across. But what's preventing it is just the arrogance. I mean, sometimes arrogance is usually an internal thing. Pride is an internal thing. You can't really 100% tell. Some people's behavior looks arrogant, but it's not. Sometimes I've seen in children, teenagers, they talk to you and you think they're being arrogant. You think they're being dismissive. And actually they're not. They're not. Then why do they speak like that? Because that's how that that particular age group sometimes learn to speak in school. It's a very rough speak. So when they speak roughly, you think they're being insulting, rude, and that's just the normal way they speak. And sometimes if the teacher or parent doesn't know, they're going to misread that and come down like a ton of bricks and mess it up even further. I learned this the hard way sometimes. You realize that they're not being arrogant. That's just, it's not right what they're doing. They've learned to speak like that. It's almost like a gangster way. They've tried to learn to speak because they think they've just heard their friends doing that, so they've done that. They start speaking like that. That's why it's very important for parents and teachers to try to tell people, tell their students and point things out like that. So I'm not putting up a defense against all of them, but I'm saying generally that there is that issue. So we don't want to misread that. When I see a mischievous child now, I don't dismiss mischievous children anymore. Because that mischievous child, we make dua that, oh Allah, allow this vibrancy they have, this adventurous streak they have, to be used in the right way afterwards. They can change the world afterwards. So don't ever, these mischievous children, as long as it's not evil. There's a difference between shaitani and just mischief. Right? There's a difference between shaitani mischief and just innocent mischief. And Allah just creates some children with mischief. They just advent, they can't sit still. They're always doing something. They're either poking their nose in something, they're breaking something, they're jumping up and down on something, they're bothering someone. That's just their children. I don't know if anybody here was like that before. Right? But they can do a lot when they grow up because they've got that streak and everything is a value. Just have to be guided aright and tarbiyah has to be done. Learning environments. A student struggling with a topic, feeling overly confident. Some students, they're very smart. They can pass an exam like that. So what happens is they don't work hard. They scrape through. Sometimes they even get an A, but sometimes they don't. Because that was a difficult one. It didn't work. It didn't work the next time. Ya Muzil should help. That, oh Allah, take this complacency out of me, this thought that I can just get everything. They feel overconfident, they dismiss others' perspectives, they don't listen to advice, they think they know it all. That's what happens with a lot of children as well. And adults. Adults are just those who didn't get sorted out when they were young, so they're still doing it. That's the only difference it is. Because you don't develop this later. Well, you can, maybe. Right? Maybe you can. Some people, they're not in any money and then suddenly they become in a lot of money when they're 40 years old and then they just become arrogant. So that's a possibility. So, Ya Muzil, to foster humility and genuine desire to learn and making amends. We've done something wrong. It's very difficult to apologize sometimes. We get defensive. We don't want to feel non-dignified in our own sight. So, Ya Muzil, after realizing a mistake or a wrongdoing, one can invoke al-Muzil while seeking forgiveness, asking to be humbled and guided to rectify it. Oh Allah, give me the courage to sort this out. It's difficult. To own up to the truth, to take it that I was wrong, to confess to that. That's difficult. Ya Muzil, assist me in this regard.
With the Rayyan Courses subscription, you'll gain immediate access to over 250 hours of exclusive video lessons taught by experienced scholars. Sign up now at rayyancourses.com to continue your journey. Your next lesson is waiting.